Okay, good evening and welcome to this instalment of the Jonell radio, otherwise known as the Ace Radio A50, rebadged for John Lewis. And what I plan to do today is to take off both the mains transformer and the choke to get the chassis ready for cleaning. Also, I plan to remove the dial assembly and possibly the IF cans as well, so that I have a reasonably flat chassis to work with. What I want to be doing is I want to clean off all this rust, but it's a little bit difficult with these particular cans in the way, and also the rust remover has a taste for aluminium, so it will not be good to get the two to mix. Now what I have noticed, and I'll see if I can turn the set round so that you can see it, all of the both of the IF cans, but on both sides as well, the actual rivet has been twisted where it seems to have been over tightened from underneath. Now somebody's obviously put a fair bit of force onto that to tighten them down. So what I'd like to do is obviously take these out, straighten these up a little bit, and while they're out, I'm going to check the insides to make sure that there are no capacitors that need changing or anything like that. Obviously I will have to look in the insides to see whether there's anything there. Also, on the first IF transformer, I want to change this grid cap wire for something a little bit longer and more suited to the task, shall we say, because you know, this if you look, this sticky little green wire here is possibly not the best thing to do. It's although it's long enough to reach, it's not very good. I will be changing this wire, obviously. You know, having two colours just twisted together, there's not even solder on there, isn't very good. And also the fact that it's only twisted round the grid cap rather than actually soldered to the lug actually makes it quite a bit more difficult to fit onto the valve itself. Oh look, there it goes, it's actually fallen off by itself, so that's going to go in the box with all the other bits. I'm still debating about the tuning capacitor, whether I'm going to take that off or not. If I do, yeah, it's one of those things, do you take it off or don't you take it off? And if you do take it off, it's probably better to, you know, unsolder it from the top or from the base, because again, if I turn the set down this way, hopefully I'll get enough light into here, but there is a small capacitor down here that I don't know, without testing it, I'm not going to say whether it's good or not. Now I don't really want to take off the rivets that are holding this tag strip in place, so that might just need a clean up. But again, I'm gonna be looking at that. This valve base here, obviously, again, I'll have to take this off because this is aluminium again, and I don't want to eat the aluminium with a rust remover. Now some people would say, oh, you don't need to take all that rust off because it's only a fine coating and it's it leaves a patina behind to say that it is old, but I'd actually like this to be a sort of reasonable looking set. The worst of the rust is actually at the bottom edge down here. Again, you know, this is focusing slowly, but it, you know, without tilting it right onto its dial, it's here. So yeah, I'm going to I think I'm going to sort of dismantle these bits. So that's the intro bit to get on. Obviously what I need to do is I need to test this and this for electrical safety. I've already determined that this capacitor here is, you know, off the edge there, is going to go, although it's going to stay, if you know what I mean. It's not going to be connected, but it will remain on the chassis to keep the looks. And generally, I'm going to tidy the chassis up and make it look neat. As I say, I don't think I'm going to go as far as painting this, and I'm also going to have to be careful because these are aluminium rivets. So unless I plan to sort of take all the rivets out, then, as I say, I'm going to have to be careful round here with the rust remover. Okay, so rather than waffle, I think I'm going to make a start, and the first thing that I think will come off is the dial mechanism. Now, I'm quite surprised that these have actually got Phillips headed screws on, because it just doesn't seem the same as the rest of the set where it's got flat head screws, but who knows. I don't know what the reasoning behind it was. Now first I'll have to remove the dial cord assembly, so let me put my screwdriver down and let me get my long nose pliers, because I want to take it off at the spring. Now I don't know if I can take it off without... No, I'm going to have to use the pliers. There we go. And that just unhooks from there, and it's still through the dial wheel. I haven't actually cut the string, and I'm not going to if I can help it. You can see where it's sitting, and it's quite black. This actually is white dial cord, which is getting a bit dirty now. So now we've taken that bit off, we've also got to take off these two holders. Now I've already taken out the lamps and put them on the multimeter, and yes, they're dead. Both of the bulbs are no longer for this world. Also, the contacts on here could do with a clean up, as well as this top bit. So that's not going to be any chemical process. That will just be a case of a very, very fine sort of bit of emery cloth or something like that, just to top that surface up. As for the cables, I'm going to try and keep them original, so I might just be able to get away, as you see, with rubbing the dirt off and them being the right sort of colour, and I can do that pretty much all the way down. Now these go to the heater chain, so that's a very straightforward sort of simple part of the radio that isn't critical to operation, but obviously is got to be done. It's another of those little jobs. I also am not happy about the way all the wires seem to be coming through without grommets on them. It's just a bit naff. So we've got the dial cord unhooked. Let me put it on its back like that and just unwrap it from round the spindle there. So that's it now, completely disconnected from the assembly there. Now obviously I'm going to take this off and clean it and lubricate it anyway, and I will be doing the same with the controls, but what I plan to do initially is to just do the top surface and then start working on the underneath and the individual components and tracing them through one by one. So wrong screwdriver. Let me just move this up and have a look. Right, those screws are actually just that. They're a self-tapping screw, so there's nothing to hold underneath. So all I need to do is pop the screwdriver in now and twist them up. As I say, I found that rather strange. They look old, but that's not to say that they're original. So we just undo the two sides. But before I move it off completely, I'm going to have to loosen the grub screw that holds it to the tuning capacitor anyway. So let's pop this off. They weren't put in very straight, so that might indicate that they're not as original as they could be. Also, taking this off will give me a chance to have a look at the dial mechanism and see whether the needle is actually bent, or whether it's just misaligned in this shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the screwdriver in there now. Hopefully, it's already loose, so somebody's been in there, and we're also missing one from this side. So again, it looks like this radio has been worked on. And if I just take that out like that, there we have the complete dial assembly removed from the set. And it looks like the squeakiness is just down to physical contact on the wheel that goes through the through the backboard. Now I will have a look at it better, but let's put that to one side. So that's out the way now. And as you see, this is the colour of the chassis underneath the rust. Now I don't know whether the grey, as you can see, where the clean edge is, it looks like the chassis was actually sprayed with that bracket in place for the dial assembly, which is quite odd. Oh no, there is some overspray on the bracket, but the actual dial wheel looks like it was put in afterwards, because that's riveted on and it's a brown colour, not a sort of grey colour. So obviously when they assembled this, they did it in a certain way. Now this grid cap cable is ridiculous, to say the least. I'm going to take that out anyway. So let's start by first of all, let's go underneath, and now we've got this off, we can rest this on the blocks and put it in the air and see what needs to come off solder wise, so that we can take off the relevant transformer and choke. And I think I'll take these wires out at the same time to keep them from being damaged. So if we go underneath and just trace through, right, it looks like they've put the heater chain on the bottom of... It looks like they've connected the heater chain to this tag strip here. If I just put it back into shot for you, you can just about see it here. And let me just... that looks very odd. I don't think this was how the factory made it. In fact, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Okay, let's zoom in a touch and see if you can spot the same as I can. Let's focus you in. Right, the heater wires here look like they're held in, and if you just look there and there, I'm doing this in reverse because I'm looking at the monitor, not the board. It looks like they're held in by wedged in bits of wood. Let me just poke at that and see what that is. It is. Somebody's used some bits of wood and they've wedged them in the holes and just tagged the heater cables in. So I don't even need to desolder the heater chain for the pilot lamp. So that's and the state of that, that certainly wasn't done at the factory, so I'm pretty sure that this set has been got at some point in its life. I'm pretty sure a factory wouldn't have done that sort of work on it. Let's just try and have a look. Yeah, there is a voltage connection on either end there. So I'll trace that through, because obviously that's just not, that's just not acceptable. So let's just reach round and gently make sure that they're not going to snag on anything as I just lift it up and pull them through. I say the heater chain. These are pilot lights, but all they do is connect to the heater chain. So let's put them to one side as well, and then we can look at the transformer. Now this bit of mains cable is going to have to come out. So this is going to the on-off switch. So again, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up the iron and see if we can take this rubber cable off, which is a bit worse for wear. Right, okay, right, I've finished unsoldering the last wires. I've already put the primary side wires through. I'm just about to turn this around and just feed. In fact, it's very hard because they've actually gone straight onto the transformer. There's no slack in this wiring at all. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try loosening off the bolts that are actually holding the transformer in place, like that and like that. So that means then I should be able to see which is the best way for you to see it. If I do it like this, now, I'm sorry I haven't got a nice big bench like Jim Lindenass or people like that, but needs must when we're here in the UK. So should be able to bring that straight out. And notice there's no washer top side, and there doesn't appear to be one on the bottom. So let's take that screw. Oh yeah, there is a washer. I've just felt it drop. It's a little star washer, which is good. So let's put those bits together there, and let's do the same with the other side. So I should be able to hold this one in from here. Now that capacitor will fall out because that was attached to the negative side of the other capacitor. Now I'm wondering whether this one here has been put in as an extra, or whether it was designed to be there. So at the moment it seems like the one side of this transformer was floating above ground. So let's just take the bolt out. So let's put all of those together for now so that we don't lose any of the bits, and do the same with this screw. Like that. And then the transformer, now I should be able to get to come through and off the chassis. So there we are, there's the transformer, the mains transformer, and a quick look, this is the secondary side for sure. AC side, this may just be a heater transformer. I'll have to, first of all I'm going to have to tap this out and see which pin goes where, and then I'm going to have to see what's coming out from which terminal. It seems strange that there's only the heater wiring coming out. I doubt very much that they've got all the valves running off a varying B+ supply. But yeah, we'll put this to one side because we have to test that electrically at a later time. Now let's do the same with the choke. Now it's quite interesting to note that neither side of that mains transformer actually went into a grommet. You know, you've effectively got your AC 6 volts going in this side, and you've definitely got mains in coming from here, and if there's HT out as well, then you've got HT going through this with no sort of grommet or safety system or anything like that on it, which I've got to say doesn't make me feel very confident. You know, it's I don't know whether I'm going to maybe expand those holes slightly and put in some small grommets just to protect the cabling, or whether I'm going to sleeve them going through that hole. But I certainly don't like the idea that they just go through the hole with no sort of protection at all. It just seems a little bit daft to me that that's the situation we've got. Okay, so let's work on the choke next, and again that should be a fairly straightforward item. What do we have? We've got two light blue wires coming out, so they both go to the capacitor here, which is logical because obviously you'll have your HT coming in one side and then through the choke, so there will be you know, a link in somewhere else, but it will come in, go through the choke and go through. Now that yellow wire, that's going to the output transformer. Yeah, so you've got your output transformer here, which is being fed off the supply that's going through there, which at least gives you some sort of extra filtering before it hits the output transformer. So yeah, that's all good. I've got to say, not impressed with a lot of this wiring so far. I think this is definitely not factory original, just by the way some of these have been done. You know, the way that was wrapped 4 times with a loose end hanging out just didn't inspire confidence. Now I'm not going to go 1 and 2 on this. I'm not going to put paper tags because it's a choke with only 2 wires. There we go. So again, all I need to do is find the nuts. Now that one might be too hard to get the spanner into. Got this one. Right, so that's the choke out. There's the nut, and there's the star washer. So that leaves that side of things sort of pretty vacant. Now I'm just going to feed the speaker wires through. Again, I'm not going to disconnect them at this stage, but that gives me some space at this end to work on. they're just coming straight off the output transformer, which is to be expected. There we go. So that's those two loose, and just for reference, the speaker wires are again sort of very sort of haphazardly soldered onto this transformer. I do have my doubts as to the originality of some of this. Certainly these electrolytics. In fact, let me have a look at this one. July 49. Now that well could be an original one. And that one's dated October 49. So all the capacitors are roughly the same sort of age. So I would imagine they were put in at the same time. So and it fits in with the date of the set. So I would say that they are originals. Whoever did any sort of work on this either put them in badly, or the factory had an apprentice wiring the setup. There is always that possibility, of course. So I'm going to keep that as it is for now. So let's turn the set back over and have a look at what else we could take off. Now I could take this capacitor off just to de-rust. I'm certainly going to take out that grommet, which is still quite soft regardless of its age. So yeah, I'm going to keep that one safe. Now I could work on this side without taking anything else off, but do I want to? This is the question. Okay, right. What I've started to do is I've started to take out the band selector, and just so that I can get at the tuning capacitor, because I've got to check all of this. I've got to clean the band selector switch anyway. So before I start putting anything on the other side of the chassis, I think I'm going to basically, change that. Now, what I've done so far is I've unsoldered this one and I've cut that one, because at the moment there are too many components in the way for me to safely get my soldering iron in there without causing any sort of damage. So this being a piece of large tin copper wire, I can replace when that's out of the way, and then I can put another piece in hanging up and then solder it to the top once I've done the job, so I will have access to it from this side. Obviously I'm gonna sort out some of these wires, because although this is an earth wire, I don't really like the way it's sort of bent and twisted in, whether it was originally like that or not. Again, with this pink wire, so I can remember where it went, I'm just going to snip that one, so that again I've got a bit either side so I can reference it. So what's left? Just the two wires that go to the tuning capacitor. So I've got one soldered there. So let me just get in and take that one off. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see it. Yeah, maybe just about. So this being the first one on this terminal strip here. Now what I have done is I have taken some high-res photos so that I know where these have all come from. And let's do the same with the other one, which is there. I really need to change the tip on this iron as well from my fine tip for surface mount work to something a bit more industrial for this job. God, I can feel the wire. Oh, there it is. So that's that wire off as well. So what's left connected? Right, okay, so we have this yellow wire to the IF can, which what I'll do is I'm going to snip that one because I will replace these bits of wire. So there's that one. Then we've got this capacitor which comes off here, this resistor which comes off here, and this capacitor which comes off the pickup socket. So I'm going to change this anyway, so I'm not fussed about snipping that one out. And what else have we got? This blue wire to the first valve, valve 1. In fact, if I'm going to replace it because that's tight, let's just take that out like that. So we've got that one, this capacitor here, which comes in off the aerial socket. It's unwrapped. I'm just going to get the right angle to unhook it from the socket. There we go. So that's unwrapped. Now just the resistor is left. So now that, see, that doesn't look too healthy there because of the way it's resting on this wire. It wouldn't surprise me if that has actually melted into that, and yes, it has. That would be, that's an accident waiting to happen, isn't it? So again, that wire will need to be replaced. So let's see if we can unwind anything from the tag strip. You can see that wire's just rested over the top. It's not actually going through the tag. So again, let's take that out. And now that whole assembly again will be put to one side for safekeeping, cleaning and all the rest of it. Now I can get to the clips that are holding the tuning capacitor in. So they just twist round through 90 degrees. It's a very simple system if you can get a grip on it. Right. Okay, so there's the first one. There's number 2. Number 3. Let's just lift that end if we can. Oh, look at all that wire. So just need to move it up out the way for me to spin the disc. Right, so now I'm going to hold the capacitor in while I turn the set over, and we have 2 earth wires going to the capacitor, which I need to disconnect. Caught around the choke there, like that, yeah. Come on. Okay. So what else have we got? As we see, these 2 wires again are not really soldered very well onto this this tag strip, so that should be everything disconnected from the capacitor. So now it's just a case of gently easing it up through the rubber and bringing its 2 wires with it. Now that's quite loose, so again I'm not sure why that would be, unless somebody's been in here. Let's just tighten that up. And there is another, no, there's no bracket there, so right, yeah, we're going to clean up the veins on this, being careful not to damage them. Try and clean up the steel bits here again, clean up the 2 contacts so that they make a good connection to the veins on the gangs, and lube these bearings up and just make sure that it's as smooth as it could possibly be. It's not stuck at the moment, it's actually very nicely weighted, shall we say. It's not too stiff, it's not flopping about all loose. So, you know, the tension seems all right. It just, all the connections need a clean up. So, yeah, we'll give that a clean up. So let's put that to one side. And now I figure out how to remove these grommets. So let me figure out that. As you see, the top end is nearly done. So rather than have you sitting here, I think we've been, what have I got, 60 minutes of footage so far, of which you'll probably only see 10 minutes. Yeah, let me dismantle the rest of the set, and we'll show you what else happens. See you soon.